Hello again, everyone. This is Rabbit's blog, and this is part 2 of my animation rant. This time, this rant is going to be about the animated movies in the animation industry, and it will pretty much go in the same flavor as my first animated rant about the animated TV shows. Now, everyone knows that animated movies have been around for 100 years. They have basically become a part of our history in the movie industry, just as live action movies have become a part of our movie history. You see, back in the late 30s through the 90s, animated movies had the same ideas that most live action movies had. They had compelling plots, intriguing characters, and discussed tough issues about the real world in a creative way. So, what happened to this line of thinking? Again, this was affected by the animation equals kids only formula that is going strong right now. Now, before I go into that, I would like to discuss about the animated movies that were popular but also criticized for their content, just as I have described in my first rant about the animated TV shows. Everybody knows about the fame that Disney movies had since the late 30s through the 90s, and the huge impact that they had on the animated movie industry. So I'm going to mention some Disney movies that were big hits, but had some mature content that interested those also. The first Disney movie I'm going to mention is Pinocchio. Pinocchio was basically about a wooden puppet boy named Pinocchio who must try to learn the difference between right or wrong in order to become a real boy. Even though this movie was originally a box office flop due to World War II, Pinocchio became an instant hit in the 80s and 90s because of his interesting characters, especially Jiminy Cricket, and his compelling plot. However, Pinocchio had undergone some severe criticism, mainly due to the dark scenes displayed in the movie, such as the infamous Darky transformation scene and scenes with Monster the Whale. Another Disney movie that was a hit was Bambi. Bambi was a movie about a small deer named Bambi, who not only explores the world around him when he was small, but also tries to learn how to become a great prince of the forest as he grows up. Now again, Bambi was a major hit for Disney, as the characters were cute and compelling. But again, there was one little scene that stuck out in many people's minds, and that was the scene of Bambi's mother's death. This scene was always talked about whenever the subject of the movie Bambi was brought up, which shows how compelling this movie really was, as a touch on a subject that younger kids would be frightened of, and yet made a huge impression on the audience minds for many years. Another Disney movie that was big was The Lion King. Now, who could forget The Lion King, the biggest box office hit to ever grace upon the 90s, and was very difficult to get on VHS due to so many people trying to get their hands on the movie for themselves. The Lion King was about a small lion named Simba, who must take his rightful place as the king of Pride Rock, after his treacherous uncle Scar killed his father Mufasa, and took Simba's place as the king of Pride Rock. Now, The Lion King was treated with great dignity, as it was the biggest movie to ever hit theaters. But there were a couple of dark themes in this movie, such as the death of Mufasa, which was a major factor in this film. The last Disney film I am going to talk about is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a movie about an ugly hunchback named Quasimodo who lives in the bell tower and is shunned by the village people because of his appearance. Of course, all that changes when Quasimodo meets a beautiful gypsy girl named Esmeralda, and he learns that there are some kind people in the brooding world that he lives in. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was probably Disney's darkest film since The Black Cauldron, since it deals with issues like prejudice, religious issues, and it was one of the few Disney films in the 90s that actually had language and yet got away with a G rating the first time around. Why? Because it was animated. Again, anime seems to be the only industry that accepts animation as an art and is definitely relevant in anime movies of today. One of the most recognizable anime movies presented around the world are the movies made by Hayao Miyazaki. Now, everyone knows Hayao Miyazaki, right? You know, he made hit movies like Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, and his newest movie, Ponyo. Well, let me talk about some of the movies he made and the impact they had on society as a whole. First off is Princess Mononoke, which is probably my most favorite Hayao Miyazaki film to date. Princess Mononoke is about a young warrior named Ashitaka who must journey to the wolf tribe to try and cure his illness in his arm that a boar demon gave him at the beginning of the movie. Now, Princess Mononoke was a truly inspiring movie and had a very compelling plot. Yet this movie was regarded as Miyazaki's most violent film to date, since there are many scenes involving blood and limbs being cut off in the most graphic way possible. Another great movie from Miyazaki is Spirited Away. Spirited Away is about a young girl named Chihiro who must go work in the bathhouse full of spirits in order to save her parents' lives. Did you know that Spirited Away was the first anime movie in history to actually win the Academy Award for Best Animated Film? Well, it deserves that honor as it was truly Miyazaki's most mesmerizing movie of all time. And yet again, I wonder about the rating the movie received. It was rated PG, yet there are some pretty intense scenes that might be too scary for kids under 13. So why was this movie rated this way? Because it's animated. The last set of anime movies I like to talk about are movies that are computer animated and other types of movies that are animated. What I'm going to talk about first is the animated movie industry that put computer animation on the map, and that's Pixar. Pixar had created many great films over the years, such as Toy Story, The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., Bugs Life, Wall-E, Cars, Ratatouille, Up, and most recently Toy Story 3. I'd like to talk about The Incredibles and Ratatouille, two Pixar films that were directed by none other than Brad Bird. The Incredibles was about a family of superheroes who have to go into hiding because of an incident that happened years ago. The Incredibles was Pixar's first PG-rated film, since this film contained a lot of violence, but yet provided a certain depth to the characters that was never seen in many superhero films other than the ones made by Marvel. Ratatouille is about a smart and inventive rat named Remy, who wants to become a great chef. Ratatouille was truly a masterpiece in its own right, because hey, how often do we actually see a rat cook delicious foods for people? Now that you heard all the animated movies that made an impact on the animation industry, again we are asking ourselves, why do people think that anime movies are just for kids? Just like I said in my first rant, kids are generally more interested in animation than they are in live action. But the whole animation equals kids only theory even affects the animated film industry, where only kid related anime movies will win the Oscar. Sure, there are rare occasions where some anime movies that had some adult content, like Shrek and Spirited Away, won the Oscar. But I bet for movies like Coraline, they would probably not win an Oscar. Which, FYI, it didn't win an Oscar. But it was nominated, which is pretty rare for most animated movies to be nominated for an Oscar. Anyway, Coraline was a really great movie, and yet because of the dark content in this film, this might not get by with the kid-friendly status that anime films have to hold right now. Give me a break! For those of you who have read the original book of Coraline, you all know that the book had a lot of scary content. So when the producers of Coraline tried to follow the book to the last detail, they got criticized because many parents were complaining, "Oh, this movie's too scary for kids." Yeah, it's supposed to be scary because that's how the book was. Well, this is part 2 of my animated rant. And again, I'm sorry if I left out a lot of animated films that made an impact on the film industry. So feel free to comment on this video and tell me what other animated movies made an impact on society. Stay tuned for part 3, and I'll see you later.